What's going on, guys? This is Emin from JERMUK, and I'm here with another video. This time we're releasing a sound bank. It's got about 65 sounds or something. So I'm just gonna preview some of the sounds and then just go over some of like the basic Serum parameters so that you could know how to adjust the sound if you want it to, if it doesn't fit how you want it to sound or whatever. So just go over the first sound here. It's called Alarm. This is what it sounds like. So that's the first one. I'm just gonna quickly go over some parameters in Serum, and then I'll just start previewing sounds right after that. So the first thing I'm gonna show is release. Pretty easy. I'm sure if you've used any kind of synthesizer, it's simple. Envelope 1 release. That's the release for Serum's main volume oscillation thing, I guess. Increasing the release obviously like gives a tail to the sound, so even if I just tap the note, it'll play for an extra 600 milliseconds before it dies out, whereas if you have it on like 15 milliseconds, it pretty much instantly dies with right once I let go of the note, the sound is pretty much gone. So that's how you adjust that. So here's initially I have it at 15, so it quickly goes away. But if I increase it to, like, let's say 500 and I do the same tapping with the note, it kind of holds the note longer. So that's how you do release in Serum. Pretty simple. Here's the filter. You can turn it off and on if you don't like the filter. A lot of times the filter does change the sound pretty heavily, so you could experiment with that. If you don't like how it sounds, turn off the filter, see what it does. Mono legato is obviously, mono means you can only hit one note at a time. You can't play chords. So if you want to play chords, you got to turn that off. Legato means it glides from one note to the next when you hold two notes at the same time. And then this portamento is the time, right? So always means it does it through every note. When you have always turned off, then it doesn't do it on every note. It only does it when the notes are overlapping. So if you do something like this, so there's the bend right there, right? You guys heard that? It's on always, but so if it's on always, here, I'll show you what the difference is. So this is when it's on always. So even if I don't have any overlapping notes, it bends it. So it bends it from the previous note. So it bends it from here to here. And it takes what's the time at 272, so it takes 272 milliseconds until it bends down. So which is like kind of like looks like this basically. So it always does it. Even if I don't have any overlapping notes, it'll do it. If you turn the always off, it'll only do it when you have overlapping notes. So it'll only do it here. So that's how you can hear that. So that's the difference there. What else? Wavetables. Obviously you can just change your own wavetables, but that's not really, that's like more sound design. These are just the effects tab. You can obviously turn things off: distortion, EQ, compressor, reverb. Reverb is probably the one I suggest you turn off through Serum, and then put your own reverb on like a channel and then sidechain it, but EQ it, whatever, for your mix. But obviously in all these sounds they have reverb, because it's gonna sound weird if you're like toggling through sounds and it doesn't have a reverb. Like this just sounds weird. Like that just, that's weird. So it sounds more full, so that's why I always have the reverb on. I would recommend you turn it off and then use your own. What I do a lot, some of the sounds I did it, not all of them, is I sidechain the reverb. So you can put like an LFO1 and then have like some kind of like this kind of shape with the trigger on, and then 1/4 rate. Grab it, put it on the mix, turn the mix all the way down, and then bring this to where it was initially. So it was about like 9 o'clock kind of. And then so now every time I hit it, the reverb is going to start at 0% wet, so there's no reverb, and then it'll kind of swoop in. So every time you hit the note for the first time, it's a clean hit on the note, and then the reverb kind of comes after. See how this little blue line is starting over every time? Get a kind of a cleaner sounding reverb. If you want to use this reverb in Serum, you can do it like you. That's how you can sidechain it. But I don't have it turned on. I just have it like this. Obviously compressor, you can mess with the, usually this is OTT, you can turn the mix down if you want or up. Same thing with the distortion. Here's the dry wet. That's pretty much it. So I'll just, and then the matrix, a lot of sounds I have this little envelope 3. Usually it's on envelope 3. Sometimes I might have it on envelope 2, but usually it's on envelope 3. It's a master tune. So what it does is it gives it that sucking feeling. You can kind of hear it. If I turn it up, if I turn it off, you can hear like it has like a click sound. And if I turn it up and I turn this back on, envelope 3, you can hear like that little clicky sound. So that's how you can adjust that if you want it or don't want it. Just look for master tune in the matrix, and then you can turn it off and on if you don't want it. That's pretty much it. Let's go to the next sound. So obviously some of these sounds have like a sweet spot in the octave. You just got to kind of mess with the octaves and find the, you know, right place. Sometimes it's too high, sometimes it's too low. Just kind of mess with it. Usually I have it pretty centered around the C3, but sometimes, you know, sounds better somewhere else. Again, this is just how the effects look here for this one. And then here's delay. Same thing. You can do this. You can, that same tip I had before where you can sidechain it, right? When I had the shape like this, you can also do that with delay, right? So you can have the delay do the same thing. Trigger 1/4. Turn this to 1/8 if you want. There's that. This is the lead from Go Back. A lot of people asked for this one. This is the first lead, and then here's the second one. So those are the two leads. I'm not gonna go over like each sound. You can just kind of, you know, do it yourself when you have it. I just wanted to go over those quick few things in the beginning so that you know how to adjust. So the main things are portamento. Usually I have it on like always for a lot of sounds. If you don't like the bending, you can always turn it off. Another thing is pitch bending right here. This is like how much you can pitch bend it. Usually I have it on 12 and -12. Sometimes I have it on two octaves, and other times I might have it on just the default, which is 2 and -2. So just pay attention to that, and then you can always adjust it. This is a noise oscillator, so usually it's on bright noise, and then you can adjust how much, like it's basically white noise, and you can adjust how much of it you want in or out. Also, there's only a limiter on the master, but it's not doing anything. It's just 0 dB, and then another 0 dB, and then there's just a reference, like a meter plugin. So there's nothing on the actual chain There's no group. This is nothing. And there's basically nothing on the master either. So this is basically, these sounds are exactly how they sound out of Serum. Oh, and another thing I have a lot of times is I have like a LFO on the fine. So this is what gives it like that dirty feel. Sometimes I have it on the phase too. You just gotta check to see where it is. Usually it's like a pretty quick rate, 164 or 128 maybe. And then it's on like the fine of the oscillators. So it gives it like that dirtier feel. And then, so you could, obviously bypass it if you don't want it. So it doesn't have that same dirtiness if you wanted like a cleaner sound. That's how you can get rid of that. Or you can add it yourself if you want it on like both. So like, see, like for this one, I don't have it on this oscillator. If you want to add it yourself, you can also increase or decrease the rate. That obviously makes it sound different. So this sound has like a little stutter thing at the end, it sounds like. So it's right here. LFO3, 1/16 envelope. So at some point it starts stuttering. You can always turn that off if you don't like it. I don't know why I did that. Maybe it sounded cool at the time. Here's a reverb filter if you want to turn it off. Kind of changes the sound a little bit. You can also mess with the dry wet. Makes a pretty big difference. So here are the Plucks. Usually the Plucks have no sustain, kind of a high decay and a high release. So just, make sure. And they usually have delay, and this one doesn't have it, but those are usually the characteristics of the Plucks that I've made. Every now and then I have like Plucks that kind of do like an ARP type of thing where if you hold the note, it'll stutter it. So like kind of like this one. You can obviously just, get rid of that. You can like bypass it. So I would for example, I would bypass all destinations. But then if you look, the level is all the way at 0. So now if I press a note, it won't do anything. So then you gotta increase the level yourself for like all the oscillators, for example. And there you go, there's a pluck. And then if you want to turn it into like an actual pluck, you would turn down the sustain. And then now it's kind of like more of a pluck. But I'll just kind of do what I did. I just revert to saved. Another thing is a lot of my sounds, sometimes they use FM. And you'll see like the level of, so it says like FM from A. That means oscillator B is the main oscillator, and then oscillator A is just acting as like a signal. So it's kind of like sending this signal to this oscillator, and then it's like kind of morphing this sound. So usually when I have the FM, a lot of times the level is all the way down on that other oscillator. So that's not a mistake, that's how it's supposed to be. So you could always turn it up and then kind of like, not only morph the sound from here, but then mix them in through the levels like that. So you could do this if you wanted to. Kind of sounds the same, sounds a little bit brighter, but that is something to just keep in mind. And then this one's FM to twice, right? So this is FM from A, so it's taking oscillator A's signal and it's sending it here, and I have the volume at 0. And then at the same time, this one, oscillator A, is taking the FM from the sub, this sine wave, and it's getting the sound here, and then it's going over here. So it's like a three-way thing. And then the level is all the way down on this too, because you know I don't want this. I don't want these original sounds. I only want the morphed sound. So that's how. That's just like a thing on with FM. This is a different sound bank, so that's not mine. Just go over some leads, some of the basses. So this one I think has some pitch bend on it. Again, you can go to the matrix, master tune, and you can check to see what's being like tuned in terms of pitch. Master tune means pitch. Basically, it's the pitch of all the oscillators' main pitch. So you would check, okay, LFO3, you can see right here it's on 1, so it's going up by basically 1 semitone, and then it's this gradual increase over the course of a bar. So you can always just, you know, if you don't want it to do that, you can always bypass or remove. So no longer pitch bending. That's the no, that was the original way. Okay, here we're at the chords, the last part of it. I'm just gonna go over like just basically one of these chords, fatty right here. So basically in chords, you can see the mono legatos they're turned off, so you can play chords. Usually when they sound good is when you hit 3 notes together. One note is not gonna sound that great, but when you hit all 3 or more than 3, that's when the sound really sounds full and sounds good. And then here's just the effects again. You can kind of turn those off, turn them on as you want. Pitch bend if you want to mess with that. And then portamento. I have it on always, so it's always kind of bending, but barely. It's only on 8 milliseconds, so it's like barely noticeable. I don't have any master tune, but you can do that here. Like you can do like kind of like for chords, it's kind of like the Headhunters thing that he does. So you can kind of. So it's kind of like that, or maybe it's longer. No, it's shorter. But yeah, it's basically the Headhunters thing where it's like a bend in the beginning. It's better to do it manually, so like in your MIDI clip. But if you want to do it on every sound, you can always do it from the master tune. So that's pretty much it. This is like a thing of all the sounds, plucks, leads, chords, and then just some basses. I'll put a link in the description, and then if you guys want to download it, you can just click in and then download it. So that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. And any like video ideas or anything, you can always put those in the comments as well. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.